comeback music.
Full table here at the 2010 Aussie Millions. This is the big game. Buy-in cost you somewhere anywhere between $100,000 and $250,000. And the action is on Andrew Feldman from the UK.
Andrew, a very tidy player, but he's been pretty quiet so far. Not now, though. Under the gun, he makes it 2,100 to go.
Well, he's got 9-10 of hearts, an interesting hand, suited connector. And there is our Hungarian billionaire, Sandor, in the action. He's picked up 9-jack offsuit.
Sandor feels lucky. What about Massa?
Well, Massa's picked up pocket eights here. Could potentially raise. No, he just makes the call, playing a bit carefully. Gus gets out of the way, around to Tom Dwan, who, as you can see by the amount of chips in front of him, is having a very, very good day.
And that has inspired him to make the call with just a 5-3 offsuit.
So 4 to the flop, and here it comes. It is an ace 8-4 flop, massive flop for Masa Kagawa, flopping middle set. Dwan has an inside straight draw.
Nothing there for Feldman. But he is going to make the continuation bet.
5,500.
5,500 is the amount. Sandor gets out of the way. Round to Massa now with his middle set.
A lot of blinking from the Japanese man. I wonder whether the expert players will be picking up on that. So he's sitting with him for quite a while.
He decides not to raise. He's just going to call here, trapping. Now,
is that pricing Tom Dwan in?
Well, with that many chips in front of you, like you mentioned earlier, you know, sometimes you can speculate with risky hands, and it looks like that's what he's doing. And he's reaching for chips, so he's not going anywhere. He makes the call, and we go to the turn. And the turn is a 2 of spades, so Tom Dwan's speculation has paid off. And he checks.
Check.
And Feldman checks as well, so it's over to Massa now, who at the flop was such a favourite, and now could be betting into, well, a storm, really.
Yeah, he's going to need the board to pair. We know he's not going to get Tom Dwan off this hand. Tom at the moment has the nuts.
11,000.
He bets 11,000. Now it's over to Durr. Will he choose to raise? He's generally been slow playing his monster hands, as we saw a little earlier with Chris Ferguson.
But Massa is no Chris Ferguson, and it may be that Tom will play it differently against the less experienced player.
Looks like he's reaching for the bigger priced chips, the more expensive ones.
Yeah, remember this is value for value, the same as cash. So it's like he's taking a big wad out of his wallet.
And he makes a very big raise. Andrew Feldman gets out of the way, and the action is back over to Massa. It's a tough spot, really.
Yep. The shipping magnate, I'm sure, knows his way around a boardroom. He's also a successful poker player, certainly in terms of Japanese rankings. But playing against Tom Dwan is a whole different kettle of sushi.
Well, he's re-raising here. He's decided, I think I've got the best hand.
How much is it? 49,200 to call.
49,200 to call for Tom Dwan, who has the nuts. He's decided not to slow play this hand, and it looks as though it's paid off at this point. Massa still has outs to the river.
So Tom Dwan's going to be putting him either on a set or ace-king here. A big, big ace anyway.
Well, he's made an incredible call at the flop, and it has paid off. Right now, he's just trying to figure out how to get the most chips out of Massa. Massa still has a lot of outs. But right now, Durr is in the best position possible. and he makes a call. So choosing not to re-raise Massa right there. Massa still has a lot of money left in front of him. So Massa looking for a repeat. And the river is a king of hearts, so Tom Dwan has the nuts.
And if Tom Dwan was putting him on ace-king, he checks!
Wow, that is very courageous and gutsy poker from Tom Dwan. Checking there, risking a possible check from Massa behind him and not getting paid off on the river. And look at that, it's paid off. Massa picks up $100,000 in one chip and bets 70 of it.
Yeah, even though he'll get some change back from that plaque that's gone in, he's more or less committing himself.
All in. Line moves all in.
And there it is, Tom Dwan pulling the trigger, Massa quickly calling, and look at the disgust in his face as he sees such a big turn card for Tom Dwan and such a terrible card for him.
Amazing. There is $400,000 and more in the middle of this base, and Tom Dwan has just won it with a 3-5 offsuit.
Well, he took a big risk and it certainly paid off.
Maybach music.
I think O'Mahony is going to play now.
Yeah.
Raised 6,000 total.
Oops. He spells trouble for Hickman.
You hate to see a cold deck hand happen, but Daz Hickman is about to be on the back end of some awful cards. In this particular format, Ken, it's really hard
20,000 more, 20
to get off of this kind of situation, big pair against big pair.
Yeah, folding queens, I don't know how. It would be hard for me to fold queens in this format, I'm telling you that.
The re-raise is 20,000 more. Oh, wow.
Whoa! Look at this. Talk about cold deck.
Queens versus kings versus aces.
Look at that face. Oh, yum, yum, yum. I like the sweets.
Achilles.
Sweets for my sweet, sugar for the daddy.
Achilles is one of the great trappers of all time. And he'll probably sit here for about 7 minutes. Do you think he's going to move all in, though? Is there any reason that he might try and smooth call here?
Yeah, if it's greedy and wants all the chips from both players. As it is, a call here would be perfect, because then the kings would come over the top.
But, I mean, even if he does re-raise all in, can't that possibly look like ace-king?
Yeah, I mean, kings are not going to fold, but queens can get off the hook. If he moves all in and kings calls, but queens might call anyway.
I don't know if I've ever seen this before. Queens versus kings versus aces in the same hand.
Looks like he's having a very difficult decision with his pocket jacks.
And the Oscar goes to... There he is.
No, that was quite imminent. I just knew it was going to happen, but I just didn't. I was trying to work it in my deck in a minute.
How many pocket pairs are out here?
I'm surprised.
Many.
No, got off.
4 pocket pairs.
5
pocket pairs. Wow.
What
That's amazing.
Anyway, if you've got a hand, I've got a
You
hand.
really don't want to play.
It's gotten very fortunate for Dale Hoy and Johnny Houston that they don't have to stick a chip in the pot.
You really
But
don't.
what is O'Mahony thinking right now?
Thank you, Lord. Give me another one. Oh, he likes his hand for sure.
Pass.
We could see a triple all in.
Good hand.
And O'Mahony's asked for a count. I mean, he is a conservative guy. He's wearing a blue blazer
He
for
can
crying
never
out
fold
loud.
kings.
6,000
Folding kings
total.
would be a big mistake in the long run. If you start trying to second guess yourself, trying to make big laydown with kings, you're just, you're just not doing the things right.
Yeah, I know that's what Dan Harrington says in his book. He says, listen, it doesn't matter. Don't fold kings. If the guy gets aces, you can dog him anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And this table absolutely silent. But 3 hearts are going flap, a flap, flap. And I wonder what Daz Hickman is thinking as well.
I was thinking about that too, because this spells trouble for him, because of the both opponents are thinking so long. He thinks his queens are probably good. He thinks maybe I'm up against ace king, or ace king jacks. So I think he's gonna put the chips in as well.
Do you really want to go home now?
Oh,
Chestnut to Gillies. Don't sling that
Just
one in.
wondering.
I mean, there will be better opportunities than this.
I should start
99 out of 100 players.
I mean, is O'Mahony thinking right now for the benefit of trying to get Hickman's action, or is he actually considering that Kalakis might have
a
aces?
good hand. He's find it hard to put down.
He's probably trying to get Hickman's money as well. But now it's enough with acting. Put the chips in the middle. Spin the wheel.
This is
You
amazing.
pot committed?
You're going to tell him about it, or not?
Give it a play.
I feel like I could go and have a look at his hand and kick you under the table.
The funny thing is, O'Mahony's only
Going
got
for a pastoral then.
6,000 in.
I could tell you what you could do with them right now.
Charming.
I think you got the hand.
Wow!
Oh,
Wow.
my.
He trusted the instincts and they were absolutely right.
Okay, question number 40.
I've never ever seen kings folded pre-flop in this format before, and I mean, that's one of the greatest laydowns we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Or one of the worst.
It was a great laydown. He had the instincts that Kalakis had a hand and he did, so he was right. You can't take that away from the guy. 98 out of 99 times it's the correct move to put the chips in the middle, but this time it was correct to fold and he found the great play. And he gives the trouble to Hickman instead.
Yeah, Hickman would have found it much easier to fold these queens.
Call.
If O'Mahony had folded, and look at this! O'Mahony is going to pat himself on the back 6 ways to Sunday, while Hickman...
I'll give you one guess what I've folded.
Ace.
King.
I folded
King.
7.
Kings.
Well,
Wow.
He's pretty pleased with himself.
no matter what happens from here, O'Mahony feels like he won. Of course,
No king.
we're liable to see a few kings on the flop.
He doesn't want a king.
I'm not even going to ask you.
He told the dealer no king.
Now, the only good news for Hickman here is that he's not all in,
Yeah.
but he's going to be short-stacked unless a queen comes.
Well, he looks like a ladies' man. That's the king. It's like, Lady Luck always rewards bad play and punish good play. She got a weird sense of humor, that's for
It
sure.
really does. Dan Harrington proved right here. Poor Dennis Mahoney. He's
How
just,
about a 5 for a
With
straight?
respect, if you know what I'm saying from my point of view.
well, anything but a queen. Hickman's drawing to 2 cards here, and that's it.
5 of hearts.
Oh! Third place for Achilles Kalakis with the 2 aces. What a hand! A queen on
What
the
a
river.
hand. Give me some water. Wow.
That's tough.
Ooh, what a hand.
Deck is colder than a polar bear's freeze.
Maybach music.
And 20,000 with a 3K ante. Reese, one of the short stacks, gives it up. Folded over to Valentin Vornicu, 33-year-old main event rookie with 8 circuit rings, though. 8-7 suited.
A vegan and Romanian, just like Daniel Negreanu, who loves this type of hand.
He now lives in San Diego. Just limps in for 20,000.
You usually just don't limp with that hand. Raise there, and you might rid yourself of one or both blinds.
Deep, Jack-9 offsuit makes the call. And there is Obst, our chip leader, Queen 5 of diamonds. And he'll see it for free.
Playing upon my favorite blinds. Can't wait to play versus our random hands.
And here is the flop, and oh my, 7-8-6, 2 diamonds, Deep with a 2-way straight draw, Obst open-ended with a flush draw, Vornicu a top 2 pair. Deep bets 36,000.
And this marks the 7,239th time Sean Deeb has bet with the worst hand during the Obama administration.
You have the best statisticians. Obst, open-ended, flush draw, just calls. He's the favorite at the moment, but it's Vornicu with the best made hand.
Valentin is single and says he can't get a match on Tinder. He should hang out with Brandon Adams. I'm sure he gets all the ladies.
They all commit 36,000. Turn card now. 8 of diamonds, wow! Valentin a huge favorite with a boat. Deeb and Opes with straight flush draws. Opes with a made flush.
What a flop, and now what a turn. There's an old poker saying, don't go broke in a limped pot, that I've never understood. Now I understand it.
You do, yeah. So Deeb at 36,000 on the flop. Now 102,000.
That's 102,000 chips Sean's unborn child will never see.
Now to Obst.
Well, Obst hamstrung here. He wants to raise, but wary of Vornecoot behind him.
Stuck in the middle. James makes the call now to Vornecoot with 8s full and a virtual hammerlock on his hand.
If Vornecoot somehow just calls here, he might get a whole lot more chips on the river.
Well, Valentin now reaching for some of the new lavender chips worth 100K each, so this does not look like just a call, Norman. And there indeed is the raise to 382.
Well, there is a moment in almost every hand in which Sean Deeb realizes he is in way over his head. This would be that moment. But there are a lot of chips in the middle, and he's got a straight flush draw.
But he's got Obst behind him as well, who also has a straight flush draw. And Deeb does give it up.
And for James Obst, it's a simple question. Valentin raises 2 players on that board, so a queen-high flush is only beating bluffs. Is this a bluff? If it's not a bluff, James Obst is pretty much drawing dead. He would need to make a straight flush to get the best hand.
We saw Deeb fold a straight flush draw. Obst does not seem so likely to do so here. It cost him 280,000 more. And those chips are going in the middle.
And here's the other problem. You make that call. What do you do when Valentin fires again on the river?
All right, heads up now to the river, and what a board it has been. The river, the deuce of hearts. Wow, after that board, we end up with a deuce of hearts. Obst checks. Valentin with the full house. Big stacks moving, 925,000.
Almost a pot-sized bet, big bet, trying to disguise it as a bluff. And the same question for James. Is it a bluff? He'd have to pay about 30% of his remaining stack to find out.
Will this one make TV, you reckon? Like comment? Wow, I'm just gone mute, huh?
What happens when the big stack, sometimes you can afford to call even though you shouldn't.
Oh, big gulp.
All right, I'll call.
Obst with the crying call.
Thank God.
And he couldn't be more wrong. Valentin can breathe again.
God. It's a little to say thank God when you call. I know, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a big pot, but like, just. That was your reaction, but it's.
No, I mean.
I mean, we all understood.
No, you don't understand why I said that. I was trying to make it seem like I was super nervous, and I just couldn't do it anymore. That's why. I'm sorry. I meant no disrespect. Like, no, I literally was just trying to. I was trying to pretend like I'm like super nervous about the hand. I'm like, the more you're tanking, I'm like.
Maybach music.
This has been a tough day for him. I mean, he was chip leader. There was at one point, he had 90% of the chips in play almost.
No, today?
85% of the chips
he
in
had
play?
17 million.
17 million and change. There's 21.2 million. Okay, so he had like 80% of the chips?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is definitely a lot. 2 pretty good hands here.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if Brian's going to just flat. Yeah, he's been doing this more or less the whole time through, just flat calling here.
Oh wow,
that's a pretty good flop for Brian.
Yeah, that's a heck of a flop.
And a cool one when you just flat call too, because your hand doesn't look anything like what it is.
Top and bottom, Little Dog Pocket 5 streaming the 50K Players Championship in Australia. Thursday night here. Let's go rest. Well, good evening to you in Australia. Justin's going to bet his gutter ball.
Reasonable, of course. That's a pre-flop raiser. You know, betting on an ace-high board makes a ton of sense. Brian shouldn't have too many aces, but we can see, of course, this is not going to work. Brian just flat calls. I like that.
Another ace here. Rest now fills up.
It's a pretty good
A
card.
king would be disastrous for
It would
Justin.
be disastrous. I mean, especially if it goes check, check, king on the river. That is just insane.
I mean, Rast is just playing this hand so slow. He check calls the flop.
Justin could very easily bet here. There are hands that Rask would check call and then fold to a turn bet. I mean,
By the way, Rast's hand is so under-repped as well, simply because, I mean, he raised pre.
no, he just called pre.
He just called pre.
Yeah.
And then just check calls flop.
A small bet on the flop, yeah.
His
I think
hand is
Justin
so
could do-
under-repped.
Justin could do either thing here. He could either bet or check. Both have merits, you know. In this spot, Justin has to think back to what he's seen Brian do in the past. And, oh, boy, that is a big bet, too. That's an overbet.
Wow.
Wow, Brian is just singing songs in his head right now. I mean, this is the dream spot where you have the nuts and the guy has bet over the pot on the turn.
Insane. Wow.
Insane.
I mean, I guess I was wondering, at first I was thinking, why not check it back? Queen high actually has some showdown value.
It doesn't really, though, when Brian calls on the flop. He doesn't have jack high, you know. But, you know, I
You
don't
never
think
know, actually. I've seen a lot of guys call in these heads flop with like jack 9 or
7, 8
something.
suited. I mean, okay, I'll give you that he has a little bit of showdown value, but he could have checked back on turn. Okay. I like him checking back more if he has king queen, by the way, than queen jack.
Yeah,
that
king
makes
queen for
a
sure.
lot more sense, yeah. But, I mean, it's definitely an interesting spot. This is a spot where if Brian doesn't have an ace in this spot, I mean, Justin is going to win this pot extremely often. Like, how does Brian continue here with 10 jack?
Well, I mean, I'm saying if Brian has a 5.
But this
Brian
is why
Brian has king high.
I love this timing by Brian. You know, he's not just like quickly calling. Like, this would be a tough bet with almost any hand he has. So Brian does make the call here.
Brian calls. Pot is nearly 6 million. And now if a king comes off, they've bloated this pot so much up that I don't
Queen
know.
or a jack just checks, but a king is just insane.
Oh! You gotta be
God.
kidding me.
Not even the king of clubs, too.
You gotta be kidding me.
Wow, that is sick. What do you do for Brian? You have to check, right?
Oh, of course
yeah,
you're checking.
You check. Brian has checked 3 times this hand. And now if you're Justin, what are you doing?
Well, Justin, I think
you have to bet, but
I think when you bet 2.1 million on the turn
do you just
and get
shove
called,
the river and
do you
just hope
put
he has
Rast-
an ace?
That's what I'm saying. You put Rast probably on a weak ace, right?
He's got. I mean, he just calls pre, check calls flop, check calls turn.
I mean, if he's got a 10, he's going to fold a 10 to a shove, you think.
If you bet 4 million, is he even calling with a 10? Probably not.
But if he's got, let's say he's got ace 7 here. Is he folding ace 7?
To a shove on the river? God, it's so tough.
Bonomo's got 7.7 million
Looks
hinds.
pretty cool on the river. Neck doing nothing, just chilling out. Great tape presence.
Oh,
but
it's like we set the deck up.
Yeah, this is a definition of a cooler.
Unbelievable.
All in. Wow.
All in. Rast is going
It's
to double
o-
check. There's the
it's-
call. It's over.
Oh, 6 spot for Justin.
Wow.
6 spot for Justin. That is the pain. That is the pain of turn poker.
They're going to count this out, but we can tell you that Brian Rast is going to win this, though.
2-time 50K champion. Brian
Unbelievable.
Rast.
And there's
Celebrating.
Antonio. They're all celebrating. Brian
Wow.
Rast, the second 2-time champion here.
Wow.
What a! I got to tell you, class 2. I mean, no celebration. He let kind of Justin just like realize the situation.
Maybach music.
Easy to make jump shots if no one's covering you. It's like it's easy for me to make 3 bets when I'm playing video poker.
Ruan on a button with 9-8 of clubs after Spaniard Fernando Pons opened under the gun with king-queen of diamonds. Ruan calls for $450,000. James Opes in the small blind with 7s just calls. And now Qui Win, the local, with a taste for baccarat with 9-6.
And Qui Win still wearing that hat. A friend needs to set up an intervention.
All right, Win with great pot odds for him. Does call 4-way flop now. And the flop is queen 7. Jack Opes comes up big with a set of 7s. Ruan picks up a straight flush draw. The table chip leader Opes checks and Win checks.
Pons flops top pair, big kicker. He's going to bet, and he's 4%.
With the pair of queens, does bet 625. Ruan now with that straight flush draw.
I'd like to immediately apologize to Michael. That was a pretty good-looking jump shot.
Norman, at what point do you fold a straight flush draw?
I do not. Not in this or any subsequent lifetime.
Ruan putting some big chips together. And that is a raise, a $2,025,000.
Well, I think Obst has exactly what he wants. But remember, pawns raised under the gun pre-flop, so it's possible he could have pocket queens or jacks, and then this would be a set over set situation.
Obst with the set of 7.
5.3.
Wants to re-raise to 5.3 million. Get out of my pot. Win folds. Pons does get out of the way. Back to Ruan now.
Who's thinking, oops, I might be in big trouble. He could be facing a set or even an ace-high flush draw here.
Pots already almost 10 million. Both of these gentlemen started the hand with more than 22 million in front of them. And there's a call from Ruan.
No give up in Micro Ruan right now.
My goodness. Turn card now. What a pot we've got going. Is the 10 of clubs, Ruan with the straight flush. I don't remember the last time we saw a straight flush, Norman.
I'm sorry, Lon. That card seems beyond the realm of realistic human possibility.
It's so exciting. Obst checked it.
Obst does know it was very possible Ruan was on a flush draw.
And now Michael Ruan with the nuts of the nuts. Doesn't slow play at a bet of 3.75 million.
The pot is swelling. Obst has got to call and hope the board pairs.
Well, he still loses if the board pairs.
He doesn't know that. We can see all the hole cards. They can't.
Oh, okay. Obst has to have concerns about that board, but the bet was so small from Ruan, and he still has possibilities in his mind. He makes the call.
We don't see that many straight flushes. What a time for Micro Ruan to turn one.
And the river card, another 10. Obst improves to that full house, but it's useless.
That is cruel and unusual punishment for James Obst. I don't know if he can take any legal action here, but I would defend him.
4.7.
Obst is going to try to get value for what he thinks is the best hand, 4.7 million.
Yeah, he bets just less than quarter of the pot. And if Obst somehow can get away from this hand after Ruan raises, he just saved himself some chips.
To Michael Ruan. He raises all in.
Look at the size of this pot. If Obst calls here, he'll be left with less than 20 big blinds. This is a life-changing cooler in progress. Considering the stage of the main event we're at, this reminds me of the Jonathan Duhamel Matt Affleck pot in 2010 that propelled Duhamel to the title and sent Matt home. I will say this, if you're Obst with 7s full and Ruan has shoved all in, what can he have? He might have you beat.
So it looks like he has a straight flush. Could be the best actor of all time.
Wow, what a laydown. Ruan will collect that mountain of chips.
A big laydown. And now we have a new big stack.
A massive hit to the stack of James Obst. But the story is the new chip leader, Michael Ruan, making Maywood New Jersey.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me.